Do you find yourself running out of time to accomplish your work? Are you spending time doing things that you're not that good at? There are effective ways to outsource these tasks so you can focus on your business. This is the Virtual Success Show. We bring the inside scoop on outsourcing success for entrepreneurs by entrepreneurs. And now, here are your hosts, Matt Maloof and Barbara Turley.
Good morning, everyone. Matt Maloof here for another exciting show of the Virtual Success Show. And as always, I'm joined by my co-host, Barbara Turley. Good morning, Barbara.
Morning, Matt. How are you?
I'm excellent. How are you going?
I'm good. You know, I've had an interesting week. I've had sort of an evolving week in my business. And I wanted to share a quick quote that I saw this morning that just sums up completely the week I've had. It was by Ben Chestnut, who's the CEO of MailChimp. As it grows, your business will go through several stages, and each stage requires a different kind of leader. And I'm definitely feeling that in my business this week. I'm sort of moving to another level and feeling that sense of needing to be a different kind of leader as I go forward.
Fantastic. What a great quote. As your business grows, you need to become a different type of leader. That's amazing. That's great. We'll make sure we get that posted as an attachment to this. I think that's a really good start.
Yeah, I'll organise that.
So, Barbara, I'm super excited about today's podcast. I've got a dear friend and mentor of mine, Taki Moore, joining us. Taki Moore was one of my very early business coach and mentors when I became a coach. And we've been friends for many, many years. And we actually met in my former life as a personal trainer. And we've stayed in touch over the years. And Taki has been responsible for an amazing amount of learning that I've had over the years, both in the area of virtual assistants. And he was responsible for introducing me to the world of virtual assistants. But together in helping me in growing my coaching business and also many life lessons. So I would love to introduce and welcome to the show Taki Moore from Coach Marketing Machine. Welcome, Taki.
Hey, mate. Thank you so much for having me, Barbara. Great to be here.
Well,
Excited, mate. I think we first met when I was in much worse physical shape than I am right now. And I remember having to do leg presses and stuff like that with you, Matt, a long time ago. And dude, look how far we've both come. It's pretty exciting.
I was in much better physical condition back then too, Taki.
Well, yeah, exactly. That's funny. I've gone the other way. And yeah. Look at you business-wise and mentally. I think you're kind of in tip-top shape, mate.
Fantastic. Barbara, sorry, you were going to say.
I was saying, how are your legs looking now, Taki?
Pretty good. Hey, I'm crossfitting 3 or 4 times a week and down the beach twice a day. So I'm pretty healthy and I'm kind of in love with life right now.
Oh, good. It's nice.
So, Taki,
yeah,
I'll get you to, can you do your 60-second elevator pitch on who you are and your company, just so that everyone is super clear on that side before we get into the depths of today's show?
Yeah, totally can. Let's just answer it in 3 ways. You know, who I help, what their problem is, and how I help them. So I help coaches and consultants. The problems that they have are either, number 1, don't have enough clients and aren't making enough money, or number 2, most of my work is spent with coaches who are already pretty successful, well above break even, successful and trying to scale, but get to the point where it's getting a little bit hard. So they're going to hit a plateau. Because the way that they attract and convert and deliver is kind of holding them back. So my job is to help them get more clients, to get more leads, to turn their one-on-one coaching into a group coaching kind of leverage program so they can, make more money, have more fun, help more people. That's kind of what I do.
Excellent. Fantastic. And that's actually where we started working together in a commercial sense was through the Black Belt program. And and we were mentioning actually only earlier this morning that the first there was like 12 of us in a room. And
totally. And I was like, this is so awesome, 12 people. And now I look back and go, 12 is so small. But dude, as long as I think if you're proud of I think I'm always really proud of what I'm doing. And then I look back and go, geez, I had no idea back then. And it's just a good sign that you're kind of growing and learning and becoming more. It's cool.
100%. So Taki, tell us about your beginning with virtual assistants and how that started and how that has evolved over the years.
Totally. So it started with a book. Tim Ferriss wrote a book called The 4-Hour Workweek years ago, and I read it, and it completely shifted my ideas about what was possible. There was one line in that just changed my world, and it said, amazing things happen when you can. I think at the time he was living in Argentina, and he had his kind of team, employees and virtual team in India, and obviously he's a US guy. So the sentence was, amazing things happen when you can get paid in dollars, you live on pesos, and you pay your team in rupees. And that sentence just kind of shook me. I was like, oh my goodness, because I was a bit stretched. Like I didn't know, we were growing, and I didn't know how to handle the growth, but I also didn't quite have enough money, I didn't think, to hire somebody at Australian rates. And all of a sudden, kind of this new world of possibility opened up, and I thought, maybe that's the solution. And so, 2 weeks after I read that book, I hired Ash, who's been with me 7.5 years now. So I guess that's how long ago I read the book, and life changing. At the time, I didn't know, can I afford it? And then that was followed by, dude, I don't think I could even keep this person busy. Followed by, holy crap, can we hire a second one? Because it's just, once you get some momentum around this stuff, it's just incredibly liberating. So how it started was being inspired by the 4-Hour Workweek and really wanting to, I don't think I probably would have languaged it quite as proactively as this, but wanting to play to my strengths and live in my genius. I probably would have said, I'm drowning in stuff that I'm not very good at and I hate.
And so from that point, Taki, because I think we sort of started working together not long after that.
Sure.
What was inspiring when we first started working together in that context was that you were working on average about 12 hours a week. Is that correct?
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yet your business was growing at an exponential rate.
Yeah, I think that sounds like a good thing.
Yeah. Yeah. So
I think the thing is this: if you break down your tasks, like everything you do each day or each week or each month, and you kind of grade them. Obviously, you can filter a couple of ways. You can filter by frequency, like what happens daily and weekly and monthly and quarterly and other. But you can also rank things in the way that Dan Sullivan, a strategic coach, talks about, which is if every task falls into one of 4 buckets. It's either an area of incompetence for you. In other words, frankly, you suck at it and you do a terrible job and it takes a long time. So it's incompetence. There's competence. We can get a bare pass. There's excellence, which everyone kind of strives for. But excellence is you've got superior skill. People notice that you're good at it, but it's learned, not natural, and it doesn't give you energy, right? And then fourth, I'd call genius, which is superior skill. People notice that you're great at it. You're fascinated by it, and you could happily kind of do it and learn more about it forever and never get bored. And it came sort of hardwired, factory installed. You didn't have to learn it. And so if you kind of rank all your tasks into one of those 4 buckets, pretty soon you'll probably realize, like I did, that I'm doing a whole bunch of stuff that I'm actually really crap at and don't enjoy. And if you draw those 4 containers like rings on a bullseye, with genius being in the middle and incompetence on the outside, then competence, then excellence and genius, then what we're going to do is we're going to peel off, what I did was kind of try to peel off layers from the outside, start with getting rid of all of the stuff that I'm just awful at. So I think when I first hired Ash, I was the 2 things which I was terrible at was email, and I was phobic to voicemail and calendars. It's kind of embarrassing. Like even right now, like today, I have read-only access on my calendar. Like I'm not allowed to put anything in because I screw it up all the time. And I think last year, the one time that I did mess around with the calendar, I triple booked myself to speak at 3 different conferences on the same day in 3 different countries, which is quite an achievement.
That's special.
Yeah, so if you kind of rank things, I am very, very special. I don't recommend that to anyone. So I need, frankly, I need all the help I can get.
Taki, I'm interested there.
Yeah.
I'm interested on your thoughts on, you talk about the things you're not very good at and then the things where you're in your genius zone. But one thing I see with some clients coming into Virtual Angel Hub, and actually particularly women, and I can say this because I'm a woman, but, sometimes, we run our own businesses. They're our baby. We do everything our way and to our level of perfection. And sometimes We're doing a lot of things that we actually quite like and we're very good at, but it's not bringing any revenue in. So it's stopping us from growing business. Now, to hand that over, I see a lot of people really struggle there because they're just bathing in the belief that nobody can do it as well as I can. And probably a VA maybe can't do it as well as you can, but that's not the point if you want to grow a business. How do you deal with that issue?
I think there's two sides to it. So let's believe the assumption that they can't do it as well as you can, because I think that's an assumption and it may be false. Certainly in my business, the guys who are doing my stuff, and they're all based in the Philippines, virtual team, they can't, not only can they do it as well as me, but they can do most of the things better than me. The only things where I'm, clearly stronger is anything that's kind of, language, like they can't talk like me as well as I can talk like me because I've been talking like me since I was a kid, right? But let's just say that, if we believe the assumption that they can't do it as well as you, okay, well, maybe that's true. But you bring up the point, Barbara, that even though you can do it better than they can, it's not bringing in the bucks. And frankly, if it's taking a lot of time and it's not bringing in the bucks, and something else that I'm sure you could be just as excited about does bring in the bucks. If I had to choose, like if I could say, hey, Barbara, I'm in control of your life. You can either spend, I can either have you spend 10 hours a week doing, manual labor grunt work, or 10 hours a week doing stuff that you're great at, that you really love, that people will pay you for and happily pay you for. I'd rather you have 10 hours doing that because I know that in 10 hours of you in your genius, you'll make enough money to hire, probably 5 to 10 people in areas of your incompetence or competence or even excellence. But I just say start with the activities which are incompetent because they're the easiest ones for people to get quick wins with, to realize that, what, I don't love that bit, I'm not very good at it, and kind of move on from there. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's good advice. Yeah, even just for people to get started, I guess, to just start with the things that you hate doing or crap at, get rid of those first, get some confidence, and then maybe hand over other things that, as you grow. Yeah.
Later on, as you get confidence about it, and so if you think about that, that bullseye from incompetence to competence to excellence to genius, there are two things in my world that I am excellent at. One of, I don't want this to come across as boasting. I'm probably in the top few people in the world at these two things. Okay? But I don't love them and they don't give me energy. And so for years I've hung on to building my own slide decks and building the workbooks for my black belt events. And my workbooks look stunning, my slides look incredible, and I'm kind of known for having really good looking stuff. But I knew that they were excellent activities, not genius activities.
Yeah.
And so now, we were chatting just before we hit record, my workflow right now is I've got a big fat roll of brown paper that sits on the right-hand side of my desk on the floor, stand-up desk, and now I sketch, take a photo, send it off to Mike, who happens to be better at me than both of those two things. It took a long time for me to let go of excellence, but it was easy to get rid of incompetence and then competence and kind of just work my way in. So now I'm at the point where I only do the stuff that I'm loving. So I think that's probably the
I like that strategy. That's really good advice because people try and get rid of everything all at the one time and then throw their hands in the air and say, oh, it doesn't work for me. But maybe just going in stages like that is better.
Yeah, exactly right.
Taki,
much easier.
Mike doing your slides and workbooks, is that his genius or excellence?
It's probably his excellence, to be honest.
Yep.
But this conversation is all about me. So
yeah.
you know what I mean?
The reason I ask that question is because often I think in handing those tasks over, when we we may hand over what we deem as incompetence, competence, or excellence, but it's actually their genius. So,
yeah, completely. So Mike is world class at it.
Yes.
He's got a design eye, and he's got a whether it's kind of hardwired or it's kind of trained. He's got a real knack for designing information. And I think it's just a ridiculous skill. Now, would he, in his perfect world, would he spend all of his time building slides and workbooks? No, he wouldn't. He's got other stuff that we work on together. So I'd say for him, it's excellence. But frankly, for me, being able to peel the onion one layer deeper, so now I'm just ingenious, is totally worth it. And I'm happy to spend it. Mike's not a virtual assistant in the Philippines. He's a guy in Melbourne, and he costs a fortune, and he's worth every cent.
Yes, yeah. So, And I guess just the point of the question is to show the listeners that as you start to let go of these things, what you're actually doing is you're letting go of your incompetence, competence, and excellence to allow someone else to play in their genius. If you do it properly, often that's what's happening.
That's exactly what happens.
Yeah.
Yep, that's exactly what happens. And so when we hire VAs, they go through a screening process, then a group interview, then they'll take a Colby test, which is like a profile, and we're looking for what could this person be amazing at, and how are they naturally wired. So not what can they do, but what will they do given every possible option. What are they drawn to? And so I want my whole team to be playing to their strengths, because there's nothing more fun than going to work and getting to rock hard every day doing stuff that juices you.
Absolutely.
I love that you said that, Taki, actually, because one of the things I've noticed as well, and this is a common problem, I know Chris Ducker talks about this as well with people who are hiring VAs. It's that whole thing of the myth of the super VA. And, we see clients a lot hiring one person and, getting sort of shocked when they realize that this person can't code a website. They can do a lot of things, but they're expecting them to do everything from video editing right through to web coding, and they're like, they get confused when they realize that this person has limitations. They're still a rock star.
It's hilarious, because you'd never in a million years hire somebody in your home country to do everything. Like, never. Like, I want you to make my coffee, code my website, look after accounts, design this. Like, you'd never in a million years assume that, but for some reason we think that because they're the person on the other side of the world that they can. And it's ridiculous. Yes. I've totally fallen into that trap. And I think, when you're getting started, you've got a couple of options. Who do you hire first? You can either hire, I guess the closest thing to the super VA is, somebody who's kind of a little bit of an all-rounder who can kind of just take some load off. And like I certainly with Ash didn't hire super strategically. I went to the company and I said, here's what I want. And one of my requirements was that they use a Mac. And out of all of the candidates they had one who had a Mac, and I hired her. So it wasn't like super strategic with Ash. She's turned out to be amazing, and her role has shrunk down as has mine. But it started off with kind of, you look after as much of everything so I don't have to as you can, and then we've kind of got as I got hip to the fact that business is more fun when you do what you're great at. I've tried to we've kind of tried to make that the same for all of our team.
But it sounds to me though that it sounds to me that you worked quite a lot with her. So when first she started, she was kind of jack of all trades, doing everything, helping to take the load off you. But then as your business grows, you're getting strategic about her position, her genius, and then mentoring her, I would imagine, into the new sort of role as she grows with you. Was that sort of how it happened?
I would like it to sound as strategic as that. I'm actually a really bad manager. And so about a year and a half ago, we made a good decision, my wife, Kiri Marie, and I, that I run, like if you imagine that our business is like a theatre, that I run the stage and she runs the theatre. So everything that is client facing, so the workshops, the events, the training, the marketing, the sales, that's me. And all of the behind the scenes stuff, including running the team, is her. And that way, now they're being led properly rather than misled as they would if it was just me.
I mean, that's the key point, though, that they need to be led properly. So even rock stars and great people on your team need guidance and leadership in some way for this to work.
Yep. Yeah. And so they need context about what the role's really about. They need clarity about here's how we want it done, and then they need frankly, you need a communication rhythm. A set of rhythms in your business, even if it's just you and RVA, but like in a perfect world, we've got like some kind of quick daily check-in, like a daily huddle. We've got a weekly meeting. We've got a monthly strategic meeting. We've got a quarterly offsite. Like our team are in the Philippines, and twice a year we fly to the Phils and we spend 4 days together on an island, and we get more done in those 3 or 4 days than we used to in 6 months. And
but I like that communication rhythm thing because I've actually seen clients fall into the trap of sort of giving their VAs a task list and then not communicating with them maybe for 2 or 3 weeks and really leaving and then sort of getting annoyed and saying it's not working. But really, I'd love to know your view on that. I mean, there's one thing to empower people to work alone, but there's another thing to have no check-ins or no leadership there in terms of communication.
Yeah. Well, most things left unattended don't do well.
Yeah, good. That's a good quote.
Yeah. Like if you leave your garden, it's going to go messy. I've got 6 kids, and if I left them unattended, like if I just go, okay, kids, there's there's breakfast over there and here's Netflix. I'll be back in 3 weeks.
Yeah, chaos.
You know, yeah, like I might have one of them still alive when I get back. So, you know, if it doesn't work with gardens or kids, the chance of it working with team is pretty low. And, like, dude, I completely did that. I was like, okay, well, I've hired you so I don't have to think about it. So I'm not going to think about it. Good luck. It didn't work so great. And so part of the reason for Kerry Marie running the team is because she's on it like white on rice. She does a really good job. And, now the team are getting the kind of, you know, frequency and interaction and speed of getting help. I used to be the biggest bottleneck in the business, and you know, I think most of the people listening to this probably are. Like, if every decision's got to come through you, then you are the bottleneck, and so you want to get out of the way as quick as you can.
Yeah, that's very good advice.
Taki, just on the communication rhythm, you were talking about the daily, weekly, etc.
Yeah.
Can you just give us just going a next layer down on each of those? So, like, what give us the idea
totally
around
can.
the daily? Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah, cool. So, big believer in attribution. You know, give credit where credit's due. I first read about this in a book called The Rockefeller Habits by Vern Harnish, and there's another book. If you want to learn how to do it really well, there's a book called Death by Meeting by Patrick Lencioni, which I think is fantastic. And if you imagine 4 timeframes: daily, weekly, monthly, and quarterly. Here are the 4, and then we'll go as deep as we need, okay? So there's daily, there's a check-in. It's a 10-minute stand-up meeting. Weekly, there's a tactical meeting, which we'll talk about the agenda for in a second if you like. Monthly, there's a strategic. And then quarterly, there's an off-site or a plan. Like my team are in the Philippines. It costs, it's a fair commitment of time and money to fly us all to an island and do stuff together. But frankly, it's good fun. We could do the same virtually. In fact, we do twice a year on an island. We call it Tribal Council. Nobody gets voted off the island, and so far everyone's still alive.
Idea. Love it.
And then in between, so the other 90 days after each of those, we do a Viable Council, which is the same process but done virtually. Let's just start it daily and we'll go from there, yeah?
Yeah, great.
Okay, so daily check-in. It's just a way to kind of get everyone on the same page, calibrated and excited about what you're doing. And so it's 10 minutes tops. It's usually at a weird time of day, so at like 10:10 or 11:11 or just some kind of random time. It's called a stand-up, so ideally everyone's standing up, not sitting down. Energy will be better. And we just go round the group, even if it's just you and one assistant. I still recommend it. And you answer 3 questions. What'd you get done yesterday? What are you working on today? And where are you stuck?
That's fantastic. I'm taking that idea straight away.
Yeah, it's fantastic, right?
Implementing immediately.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah, so we have this 6-week virtual assistant on-ramp program, and in kind of week 3, one of the things we do is we set up the internal rhythms and rituals, and one of them is this daily check-in. And the rule is that it's going to be quick, right? I first witnessed this at a client's office up in Brisbane, Rob Nixon, and they had, 17 or 18 staff, 18 people on the team, and they did their stand-up, and it was over in 10 minutes. So if you can get 18 people through 3 questions in 10 minutes, that will give you a sense of the kind of the cadence and the pace we want. And if it starts to drivel, then it loses energy, and it's not the place to solve problems. But if someone goes, I'm stuck with this, you go, great, let's book a time straight after this and we'll fix it.
And you're on that each day?
No, I'm only on the monthly and the quarterly now. Okay. I used to be. Yeah. Right now, Kerry Marie does the dailies and the weeklies. I'm on the monthly and the quarterly.
Cool.
And I'm in Slack, which is our team chat app. Which might be helpful to chat about as well at some stage. So daily check-in. There's a weekly tactical meeting, which is 3 big things on your plate right now. What's the scoreboard say? Like, what are the numbers? How are we tracking? Let's get an agenda together. Kind of what do we need to discuss? That either comes from, what's going on for you, or what are you working on, or the scoreboard. So we get a list of things to discuss. Some of them are going to be really great topics that are going to be too big for the scope of this meeting, like big decisions, like should we do this or should we do that, a bit more strategically. So if they're that, we just park them onto the strategic list to talk about monthly. So we can deal with kind of little tactical stuff each week, right? Then we'll get into action plans. So who's going to do what? We'll kind of work through the agenda one by one and work out who does what by when. And then there's a communication plan. It's like, who do we need to talk to? What do we need to say? And that might be talk to Taki. It could be talk to a supplier. It could be talk to clients. Yeah. Yep. So that's the weekly tactical. Tuesdays is our meeting day. So all of these things happen on Tuesdays. Anything that gets parked as that's a really big topic. Let's talk about it separately. Goes to the monthly meeting. We call it the monthly strategic. We use Zoom.
Yep.
It's like a GoToMeeting. We use Zoom so we can see everybody's face, and we do wins. So what progress have we made in the last month? It's just good because you'll find out about stuff that you didn't even know happened that your team has done. And most of the time we're so busy kind of working hard, chasing the next thing that we forget to pause and go, wow, we've actually done really, really well. So we start off with, what are the wins and why do they matter? And then we go, okay, so what's not working right now? And people, anything that got parked as a strategic topic will come, and we'll have a list of like stuff that's broken. I'm not a big goal setter, but I'm a big problem solver. And so we'll just pick 2 topics and spend, an hour or an hour and a half ripping them apart, figuring out a plan. And that's the monthly strategic. And then the quarterly, we do tribal council or viable council, has a bit of an agenda, and there's a fair bit to it, but it's kind of epic. Mm-hmm. It mostly evolves around swimming and eating tacos and stuff.
What I'll do, sorry, Taki, I think you did a blog on your Coach Marketing Machine blog that I'll connect everybody to.
Oh, great! Yeah,
talks
totally.
About
how to run
tribal
a tribal
council. So
totally.
I'll put that into the notes for the show and connect people with that.
That'd be great. I think it'd be really helpful. There's 5 or 6 things we do in there, and if you do check that out, it'll give you a really good snapshot of how to run I think you don't have to go to an island to do it. At some stage, meeting your virtual team face to face is amazing, and it will change your world. But we run the same thing twice a year as a 1-day virtual. I think actually probably doing it as 2 half days is where we'll go, because 1 day is it's a lot of time to be talking to people at a computer.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Taki, I'm interested to know, and this is something, I'm guilty of this myself, because, as it was the quote I sort of said at the beginning of this show about the leadership thing.
Yeah.
I all of a sudden have a lot more people on my team in the last sort of 5 months. It doubled. And all of a sudden, as you know, when you're managing more people and more people are reporting to you, it becomes a new challenge. And I've been trying to put huddles in place and meetings. How non-negotiable are the meetings in your diary? Because obviously as business owners, we get very busy, and the tendency is to go, let's cancel that meeting and do it next week.
Yeah.
What's your view on being strict with yourself about that meeting has to happen?
Yeah, it's an awesome question. So if my wife was standing here and you were talking to her, because she runs the theatre, remember, and I run the stage.
Yeah.
It's really funny. Every Tuesday at about 11 o'clock, she seems to get this text from one of the guys on the team saying, "Is the weekly meeting on?" And I just had to go, send him a voicemail. We use Voxer on Tuesday, going, "Hey, please never ask this question ever again. Every time you ask, we always tell you that it's on. The meeting's on. Never ask it again. Just be there." And so that's done. So the meeting must happen. And it's important that meeting is led, but you don't have to be the person leading the meeting. In fact, it's probably best if you're not.
But you have to be there. I think maybe not the daily, but I think.
Well, yeah, I'm not there. Just to be really, I want to be completely transparent. I hate meetings with a passion. I find them a complete waste of my time, and I'm not interested. What I am interested in is moving things forward. So I set up the structure for how I want the daily and the weeklies to run. The team runs those, and Kiri Marie and I are resources. Like, we'll come on the meeting, but we don't lead it. We just, we're participants like everybody else. It's really important that unless you've got like somebody who's kind of your, whatever you call it, like 2IC project manager person who can run it for you, I think you should totally be there.
Yeah, I think even, for listeners that are just one person and their VA as well, anyone.
Yeah, do it.
I think it's really important for people to realize that you as the business owner and the leader, and it's something I'm really focusing on myself in my business right now, is that meeting has to happen, and you can't be the person to cancel it.
You can't be the person to cancel it, but I also found I can't be the person to instigate it.
The structure has to be there, but it has to go ahead.
Yeah, completely. And so I just have it like, we picked a time that worked for me, and it was inconvenient for some of the people on the team, but it had to work. This is when I was on the dailies and the weeklies. So it was like, this is the time that's going to work. You're going to put it in my diary. You're going to get everybody on the meeting a few minutes beforehand. At the right time, you're going to call my phone. And I'm going to answer it, and I'm going to do the thing, but I'm not going to you're going to call my phone. Yeah, I'm not going to drive. Exactly, because I can't rely on myself to drive, because frankly, if there's something else that I'd rather do that comes up, I'd do that instead. Or if the beach is good, I'll shoot down there. And neither of those are great for the team.
Yeah, that's what. Yeah, I know. I fall into that trap as well, and I know a lot of clients do too. So it's a sort of a New Year's resolution of mine to just focus on making sure that meeting happens. That's really valuable information. Thank you.
I think the secret is to you decide what you want. You make it up. You build a structure for it that makes it real, and then you have somebody else in charge who, I'm quoting Dan Sullivan again. Somebody else in charge who makes it happen and makes it recur, right? And so.
Well, the key point there is that you set the structure, though. It's like creating systems in your business. It's
exactly. It's totally that.
Yes, it's the same process. There's another process for the meeting.
Yeah, exactly right.
Right.
So, Taki, I really could spend all day with you because this has just been so amazing for everyone. But I've got one last question that I'd love to ask.
Sure. By the way, I'm not in a rush, so you do whatever you need to do. I want this to be great for you guys.
Awesome. So, knowing what you now know, it's the question that obviously Brian Tracy asked, zero-based thinking. Knowing what you now know, you've been using VAs for 7.5 years. You had that pivotal moment after reading 4-Hour Workweek.
Yeah.
If you were starting over again with the knowledge you now have, what would you do differently?
I'd probably do 3 things differently. The first thing I'd do is I would have hired my first person way sooner. The arguments against it are I don't know if I can keep them busy and I don't have the cash. Don't have the cash is pretty easily handled by the fact that if they're overseas somewhere like in the Philippines, for example, or offshore, that the wages are completely different. And even if you hire someone part-time, which I did with Ash, 20 hours a week, it was just a fear thing, so do it faster. Somebody once said, what if you can't keep him busy? I'm like, yeah, but I'm paying $5 an hour. If they sit there for 5 hours twiddling their thumbs, it's only $25. It's not that big a deal. Right? So that's the first thing, hire faster. Number 2, I would have hired a project manager sooner. And in our team, there's 2 people who play a really important role and work with me directly. They're called project managers. I have a project manager for my marketing and a project manager for making our black belt program better, right? So every quarter, how it works is every quarter I come up with 3 new projects that I want to do marketing-wise and 3 new projects I want to do to make the program better. I sit down with my project managers with a sheet which kind of maps out exactly what I want, how it's going to look, what's at stake if we get it right, and what's the cost if we get it wrong, and exactly if we do it and do it well, it looks like this, yeah? And I brief the project manager at the start of the quarter, and then they go away that week and they turn it into a project plan that we talk about the next Tuesday, and I just feed the projects weekly. So I would have hired a project manager sooner because it allows me to create. I think about my role a little bit like the first 100 meters in a 4x100 meter sprint. My job is to kind of pick up the baton, have an idea, run 100 meters and give it to somebody else, and then let go. And having a project manager makes that work. So that's the second thing I would change. And the third thing I would probably do is work with a project-based team sooner. So Barbara, we spoke earlier about the myth of the super VA. I think the alternative to that is to have a one point of contact person who has a team of specialists around them. So the kind of the VA company that we use has a project manager called Harvey. It's not their actual name, but it's what the service is called. So you email your task to Harvey, and Harvey grabs it, and then he or she has 5 teams around them that they can call on. So there's people who do design, WordPress and tech, automation, social media, admin, and the 6th team is media. So editing videos, podcasts, audio, etc. And so it allows you to get a ton of stuff done but still only having to manage one relationship, which I think is a really, really nice way to do it.
Love it. That is, mate, that's gold. That is absolute gold. And just for the listeners, just to reiterate. So number 1, hire a person sooner.
Yeah.
And I think in one of the earlier shows, Taki, I talk about, and I can't remember if it was you and I had this discussion when I first hired my first VA, but I put a little post-it note on my computer anytime I get a new staff member, which is what could I get and their name to do now? And it's just staring at me in my face day in, day out. And if you've got that in front of you, all of a sudden, as you're getting into your workflow, this is staring at you day in, day out. And before you know it, they'll be full.
100%. Yeah, before you know it, they'll be full. I think that's a great way to, what can I get name to do right now is genius.
Yeah. And secondly, I like having a project manager, and to reiterate your point is, it's like running a 100-meter relay, and your role in that team is to, the firing gun goes off, you sprint that first 100 meters as fast as you can, but then you're handing the baton over.
Yeah, and so it legitimately is a 400 by 100 meters. So the 400 meters first 100 meters is make it up. That's my job. I figure out what I want.
Yep.
The second 100 meters is with the project manager, and if I make it up, they make it real. So their job is to take my idea and make it happen, and they've got 90 days to do that. The third 100 meters is to make it recur, and that's usually project people typically get bored with doing the same repetitive jobs again and again and again. So you want someone who's good at that. And so, project manager invents the new thing and then passes it off to, systemize it and pass it off to somebody else who can just kind of do the same task again and again and again. And then the project manager comes back to you ready for the next 100 meters, right? So it's make it up, make it real, make it recur. And then the fourth piece is to make it better, which is the team does a debrief about the systems, anytime something breaks, and go, well, how do we make this better?
Love it. Love it. And then that third point was to have...
It's like a hub and spokes.
Yeah, have those people, have a center person that they can have specialists around them to get those pieces done.
Otherwise you end up having to manage, 5 people, and that, like, A, it costs more, and B, it's a pain. So you don't have to pay for all of the 5 people full time because you don't have like a media editing or an automation job all the time. But if you can pay the equivalent of 1 full time staff, who's your project manager and team, and the team is shared amongst a few other people, I think it's kind of a really great way to get stuff done.
Absolutely. One last thing I'm going to add to the conversation. In one of our earlier shows, we talked about viewing the mindset the critical mindsets that must be adopted when bringing on virtual teams. And part of what we talked about in that show, Taki, was just viewing the remuneration of your people as an investment as opposed to an expense.
Yeah.
And the reality is, when you've got the right people and you leverage through them, the payback is 10x or more.
Yeah, it is. And I think for me, I get paid 2 ways. The return on investment comes 2 ways. The first return, the immediate one that you'll get no matter what, is I never have to do that crappy job that I hated ever again.
Yep.
Right? And that's an immediate payoff. Like if I never have to check another email, if I never have to look at something in my calendar, if I never have to like book my own flights ever again, if I don't have to negotiate with venues and Quincy will, give the calendar to the people, get quotes at the places, book the venue, book all the AV. Like if I never have to do that, God, that is life-changingly good.
Absolutely.
So that's the first way I get paid, in the relief that comes from never having to do stuff you're incompetent at ever again. And the second way you get paid is if we can get an extra, like with my clients, one of the very first exercises we do is this thing called the extra workday advantage. Like how do we get you an extra 1 day a week to work on stuff that actually matters, right? And so if we can free up 10 hours a week from stuff that you hated doing, so now instead of having a drain, it's giving you energy, and instead of it be a drain, we can spend, even if we fritter away half of it, at the movies, right? And we use 5 hours a week on something that is high leverage, that is in your genius zone, that you're great at, that gives you energy and brings in the bucks. Dude, 5 hours of you in your genius is worth 50 hours of you in incompetence. And so it'll snowball really, really quickly.
Absolutely. Love it. Absolutely love it. Well, Barbara, was there anything, before we wrap up the show, was there anything else, any other questions you had for Taki?
No, not at this stage. That's been absolutely fab. I've taken lots of tips myself I'm going to be implementing as soon as possible in my own business. So thank you so much for that, Taki. Lots of great insights.
Total pleasure. Lots of fun, and keep up the good work.
Taki, thank you so much. I highly recommend, if you want to learn more about Taki and his teachings, coachmarketingmachine.com is Taki, where Taki regularly blogs. He's also got, you've got a couple of podcasts, haven't you, Taki?
Yeah, we're actually, salesmarketingprofit.com is where we unpack case study interviews of clients, stories of good work that clients are doing. And there's a new podcast about to start, tentative title $1 Million Coaches, which is kind conversations with Adam, my head coach, and I, and also interviews with clients, and maybe even the occasional mentor as well. So look out for that in the future. But right now, coachmarketingmachine.com is where to go, and there's links to everything else from there.
Fantastic. Taki, thank you so much. Been an absolute pleasure. I think the listeners have got millions of dollars worth of value out of this show, and mate, we'll have to catch up for a burger sooner or later.
I'd love to. That'd be awesome.
Awesome.
Thanks, Taki.
Thanks, Barbara. Ciao.
Taki.
See you guys.
And everyone, just stay tuned for more and more shows of the Virtual Success Show. Please be sure to add any comments below, or we'd love for you to share this podcast with others so that we can continue to build the Virtual Success Show community. Till next show, Barbara, have a wonderful week, and we'll chat soon.
Yeah. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Virtual Success Show. If you found this show helpful, take a moment to share it with a friend so that we can all grow together. Find out more about the inside scoop on outsourcing success by going to our website, virtualsuccessshow.com. Until next time, thanks for listening.